Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Flag. I'm your host, Lukas Wacker. With me, as always, we have Kyle Cushman. And welcome back to the show, Kyle. Abbreviated a little bit of a break there for you, but we are back and stronger than ever for this one to get you set up for the NASCAR weekend at Richmond. We're going to do a little different this time around with our weekend previews, that is. We're going to have NASCAR in this individual show, so it's just for you NASCAR fanatics. You can get ready for all the latest news and everything like that. And as well, we have our predictions and our fantasy for this upcoming weekend in Richmond. And we'll also be doing an individual F1 Formula One show for this upcoming weekend for the Imola GP. So if you are an F1 fan, make sure you come back for that one. It's going to be a good one there. But we've got NASCAR in this one. So before we get into all that, how are you doing today, Kyle?
Yes, I'm doing good. Good to be back as well. Of course, the last week of the semester, so quite a few assignments this week. A busy beginning of the week at the very least. So had to miss out on that one, unfortunate to say. But good to be back. Good to be here previewing Richmond here.
Yeah, for sure. So let's jump into the news and notes. It's a little bit interesting ones, to say the least. And we'll start off with Harrison Burton making his Cup Series debut next weekend at Talladega Superspeedway in the number 96 car for Gaunt Brothers Racing, with a sponsorship coming from Dex Imaging, who has sponsored him throughout his entire, basically, rise up through the ranks. It's a pretty cool opportunity here for Harrison Burton. Came out of left field, didn't really see this one coming at all. But Gaunt Brothers has done some stuff with Dillon this season. They're running a part-time schedule, and it's just great to see that they're giving them another shot here, making Harrison Burton make his Cup debut. That's obviously a great thing to see here. Off to a little bit of a slower start than maybe what we expected in the Xfinity Series this season, but it does make you wonder if there's a contention for a Cup Series ride here for Harrison Burton as soon as next season. But what do you make of the news here, Kyle? Harrison Burton coming up to Cup for potentially just one race this season. We'll see if they add any more.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because there's stuff that you can look at, of course, in the short term, just going into Talladega. But I think that there's a little bit that you can maybe infer going into the future as well. And I'll start in the short term. Great to see him just get this first opportunity at a track like Talladega with a team like the 96th that we've seen be competitive at super speedways, not been afraid as a small team that doesn't have a charter to get up in the mix. We saw Daniel Suarez, I think, last year in the season finale, regular season finale, at Daytona, lead laps. Obviously due to some strategy and whatnot, but he was up there in the mix. So this is a team that, although they're small, don't have a charter, aren't afraid to be up in the mix for super speedway races. And that's exciting to see. I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't Dillon in this car because he's been a really strong super speedway racer in his career to this point. Specifically with the 13, we saw them have multiple top 5, top 10 finishes with the 13 at super speedways, both at Daytona, at Talladega. So I was a little surprised not to see him, but at the end of the day, it comes down to sponsorship most of the time, and it's great to see Dex step up to the plate here with Harrison Burton and go with them to Talladega here, which is really cool to see. Into the long term, though, and also just kind of with Gaunt Brothers in general, I found it interesting, some of the sponsorships and drivers for them this year, with Dillon having a TRD sponsored car at one point this year with the 96. The 96 hasn't been a TRD car to this point in its history. There were some rumors last year that they might become what is now 2311 Racing and become that second team with Levine Family Racing going away. So maybe there's some more ties being gathered into the future here between the two. But at the very least, it looks like Harrison Burton getting that Cup experience, having a solid start to this season, even though he's been maybe not as race winning potential as some of the other JGR cars in Xfinity so far this year. He's been fairly consistent other than a couple engine issues so far this year. Seems on pace to at least be challenging for a Cup Series ride into next season. And this is just kind of one of those steps along the way.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting to see how quickly they want to get this guy moving along here, because he's done a couple of seasons now in Xfinity, had that 1 year in truck, so he's steadily progressed up through the rankings here. And
especially when you look at how long it took Christopher Bell as well, right? Because Harrison Burton is, I think, 4 years younger than Christopher Bell was when he was in the Xfinity series. So if you're following a similar model, Harrison Burton was quick through the trucks. If he were to step up to the Cup Series next year, would be quick through Xfinity, whereas Bell was a couple years in each kind of series, slowly making his way up. It would be interesting to see what route they take with Harrison Burton. I still think they play the longer game with him, but we'll have to wait and see how things go. Also, mainly depends as well if they end up getting another Toyota team in the Cup Series as well.
Yeah, there's rumors on if that could happen. Maybe like Richard Petty Motorsports or something like that. They've been linked to maybe going back to Toyota. So there's
Yep.
lots of different avenues. And the next gen car brings up a
Second
lot of questions.
2311 car, there's been some rumors about other teams like JTG as well. Like there's a lot of different potential paths to potentially go down here for Toyota.
Yeah, those mid-pack teams, it seems like they're contemplating on where they want to go with. Where's the potential for that next gen car?
It just makes sense to acquire another one because right now you've got the big team and then you've got one car at 2311, which isn't changing. If you're going to have that TRD pipeline like you do, you need to have a mid-pack team to fit them into. And we've seen that with Chevy. We've seen that with Ford to an extent. We haven't seen that so far with Toyota, and they've lost a lot of people because of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of talented guys at JGR. Probably wishes they had a little bit more opportunity to put in their lineup, but with NASCAR's
I think they're doing pretty all right for their lineup right now, though, I got to say.
Yeah, but the future is what I'm looking at here because they have a lot of young guns that have gone to different teams. William Byron, I mean, if you want to count Joey Logano, technically was a young driver, and imagine if he stayed at Joe Gibbs Racing for a long time.
Well, they could have. They chose not to, but
that's way back. That's 2012 decisions that we're talking about there. But exciting for Harrison Burton to see him make his Cup Series debut, and we wish him all the best at Talladega. Could be a potential fantasy option. We'll see if we want to put him in there for a one-off. Don't have to worry about a usage for that. But just speculating there. But congrats to Harrison Burton on securing his Cup Series debut ride next weekend at Talladega. We move on to the next little bit of news here. Down to the Truck Series for this one. KBM has announced their 51 truck driver for the Knoxville on Dirt race later on this summer. Brian Blackjack Brown, Blackjack is his nickname, but Brian Brown has been a staple in the sprint car series. He has a lot of success down there and is a 5-time track champion at Knoxville as well. So they're getting somebody with a little bit more prestige. They went one route with the Bristol Dirt, kind of putting a Cup Series guy into that one. Martin Truex Jr., I would say he went into victory lane. I think that's probably a good bet. And then we're going with a dirt track regular here in Brian Brown. So interesting how they played it too. Obviously the Cup Series is going to be racing at the Bristol Dirt, so it made sense to put a Cup guy in there for an extra couple of laps around the place. But here it's just for the Truck Series that weekend, so it's good to have a guy that's familiar with the track and can hopefully get a little bit of a good run out of that 51 truck, Kyle.
Yeah, I'm a bit surprised that none of the Toyota drivers maybe took up the opportunity to go down to Knoxville and go and run that race. But at the same time, there's not a ton of them that have that dirt background, with the exception of Christopher Bell. But he hasn't really seemed interested in running those kind of one-off extra races so far in his career. He hasn't gone back down to Xfinity or trucks, to my knowledge, since moving up to the Cup Series with Levine Family Racing there. So at least with this decision going with Brian Brown here, it's great to see somebody that's more of like a quote-unquote track legend, a local there for Knoxville, go out and get this kind of ride and go out with an opportunity to go and spoil the show for some of the regulars. And I'm sure some of the Cup Series drivers that will probably end up going in and either trying to qualify or running that race. So really cool to see. I don't know anything too much specifically about Brown there, but great to see somebody from the dirt racing community get this kind of one-off opportunity with a big name team.
Yeah, for the lower series or the series that don't get talked about enough in North American motorsports, it's good to see that these guys are getting these opportunities in the lower series and getting a chance in pretty high-profile equipment. Clearly, what we've seen this season with the 51 truck, and just to get an opportunity to go out there and maybe even win. Like that's obviously awesome for him. So wishing him all the best. That's still a little bit ways down the road for Brian Brown to make his Truck Series debut, but we'll see how it all pans out at Knoxville later on this summer. And just a quick note here on NASCAR, soon permitting sponsors and essential personnel kind of thing from the sponsorships back at the track coming up at Darlington in a few weeks' time. That's obviously huge news for the sponsors and for the teams themselves, because you need as much representation. You got to have these sponsors at the track see it for themselves. And that's just huge marketing ability there for NASCAR and for the teams just to get these sponsors back on track. So just wanted to make a note of that. But this is probably the biggest news that I really wanted to get into today's episode. The SRX Superstar Experience. They nailed their broadcasting lineup. It was announced this past week who's going to be doing the play-by-play, who's going to be doing the driver analyst stuff, who's going to be your pit reporter. And bravo, this series keeps on delivering with announcements. And we'll break it down for you right here, right now. So this is the big one off the top. Alan Basswick returns to motorsports in a play-by-play role, a guy that we both grew up as, one of probably my favorite play-by-play announcer I've ever listened to in my entire life. He's just like kind of like an idol to me in a way. Just he's just he just performs the job to the absolute maximum. He's so well spoken and articulate with his words, and he has fun in the booth as well. That's the biggest thing. It doesn't sound too scripted. So really happy to see Alan Basswick back in the racing side of things. Lindsay Zarniak, a person you may remember from the NASCAR TNT day. She was also back before NASCAR had this kind of new broadcasting rights to with Fox and NBC. She used to be back with TNT when they had that summer series, and she was the usually the pre-race host. So she did a great job with that. Good to see her back with Motorsports. Brad Daugherty, who we've seen come back to the broadcasting side of things, will be a roaming analyst. And he's obviously working for NBC right now, but he's going to take a little bit of time during the summer to broadcast for CBS Sports for this series. And Matt Yoakum is going to be your pit reporter, a guy that should be in the sport covering the NASCAR Cup Series right now. Is unfortunately not, but at least we get to see a glimpse of him for 6 races this upcoming summer. Great to see them giving him a shot here. Well deserved for Matt Yoakum. Then we have some former drivers here to close things off here for your
Current
driver
as well.
analysts. Yeah, definitely. Danica Patrick, James Hinchcliffe, and Dario Franchitti. What a star-studded lineup we have there. All different kinds of motorsports being covered there. Obviously NASCAR with Danica Patrick, as well as IndyCar with her, and then James Hinchcliffe. IndyCar. Yeah, really. And then James Hinchcliffe and Dario Franchitti there with IndyCar. So what a star-studded lineup we have on deck there. Didn't need that big of a broadcasting lineup, but the people that they chose were excellent. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Kyle, but obviously Basswick is the big one, but your thoughts on SRX's decision for their broadcasting lineup.
They killed it.
Yeah.
Like they checked every single box that fans could potentially want. And it's a series that is clearly trying to pander to an audience that has been wanting a specific thing for a long time. They haven't been getting it from NASCAR. They're trying to fill this niche, and they're doing so with superstar names and superstar announcers as well. Like it's very, very impressive, the lineup that they've put together. Alan Basswick, people have been wanting for forever to return. He's just the best. Like he's just the best NASCAR play-by-play guy out there. And it's great to see him return here into the future when certain rights come up. Maybe CBS becomes a bit of a player as well as things go in the future. But that's way down the road here. I think the interesting one for me is Brad Daugherty, just given his involvement with NASCAR, and seems like there's some goodwill between the two, but also sometimes at the same time it seems like there isn't. It's a very weird dynamic between the two. Of course, Tony Stewart's involvement made things a little bit interesting with the whole Eldora stuff this year and going to Bristol Dirt and not to Eldora, all that kind of stuff. So it's good to see Brad Daugherty be the roaming analyst role, and good to see him involved, though. At the very least, Matt Yoakum should be doing NASCAR broadcasts right now. I mean, as should Alan Basswick, but specifically Yoakum was doing them last year, and there's no reason why he shouldn't be doing them this year, which is, we talked about that in the off season. Great choice for them on the pit reporter. Again, you don't have a ton of cars, so one pit reporter is perfectly fine in that role, and then having the analyst kind of dive in after that. And then the 3 analysts they have, for starters, star-studded, fan favorites. So you got that. You got a current driver who's doing the full IndyCar season as well, and James Hinchcliffe. So that's an interesting add. Dario Franchitti, who's been doing a great job with the Formula E broadcast as an analyst as well. And then Danica Patrick. Like it's just like you take every single box. Like it's truly remarkable what SRX and CBS have done here. It's really, really a strong job.
Yeah, I used to be a really big Dario Franchitti fan in like my early days of watching IndyCar, so this is really great to see him back just on my television screen for just a couple of weeks at least. And I cannot be more, like, it's great representation that they've done as well, having some female analysts in there. And then, of course, we got Alan Basswick. That is the big one out of all this for me. Like, just the fact that he's still interested in this, and I think he's wanted to come back or to an extent to the motorsport scene. That's where he, if you've listened to anything that he's ever done in terms of interviews with other kind of networks or anything like that, he's basically said racing was his first love kind of thing, and that's where his passion really lies. But unfortunately, due to ESPN losing the rights back in 2014 to NBC, they did not pick up his option there for NBC, and they went with Rick Allen. So it is bit of a head scratcher in that sense, but I would love it if we could just have him back with NASCAR. But this is just a great way for him to show that he's still interested in it, and hopefully we see him back, because that's really the big one. But Lindsay Zarniak as well, she did a great job back with TNT. So Nicole Briscoe would have been a good one if she could have come off of Sports Center and done a couple of things as well. It's basically just the ESPN broadcasting that I want back, because it was just so good. But at least we're getting bits and pieces here. And it's to your point there with Daugherty quickly. The NBC thing, because we lost Chris Devoda there obviously over the off season, so it's going to be interesting to see what they do in terms of their pre-race coverage, who they want to fill that gap with that host role, or if they're kind of redoing their kind of pre-race element there with Daugherty, if he's kind of more of a free agent, so to speak, now.
Yeah, he's because he's also just not like strictly employed by any one network. He's kind of like a freelance step-in analyst kind of guy, because he hasn't had like a long contract to do one thing. Like he came back last year, middle way as well through the season. Like it wasn't announced for like for race one, if I'm not mistaken. And so, yeah, I think I don't know if he's returning, because we obviously haven't seen them yet on the broadcast. Yeah, I would assume he would, but it might be something where he decided to go over there, or might be doing freelance in terms of just whatever opportunities arise. I don't think he's necessarily hurting financially, so he can kind of do whatever he wants for fun. And this is definitely something that is definitely for fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this series. They're doing some tests actively as well around tracks. Kenny Schrader seems to be their their guy. Yeah. So looking forward to that series. We're definitely going to be talking about that and watching that on CBS this summer. Yeah. We got plenty of time to do it. We're basically out of school now, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm not
just
out of the woods
this.
Yet. I don't know about you, but
I'm basically out of the woods. But sooner rather than later, Kyle will be done everything. So. We'll take what we can get. I'd rather
it be later so I can continue postponing my work that I do. But, just a little procrastination never hurt anyone, right?
No, never. When did it ever? But yeah, that does it for the news and notes for today's episode. A fun one there with the SRX stuff. That was the big one. Anytime that we can talk about the broadcasting deal or the broadcasting lineup as sport media students, we will absolutely take it.
We're contractually obligated to.
Basically, it's an unwritten clause in our contracts with this. Yeah. Let's go to fantasy, Kyle. We've got our NASCAR fantasy preview for Richmond this weekend. Our first Richmond race of the season, obviously. Back-to-back short track races here. I'm not going to count Bristol Dirt as a short track. That is a dirt track. That's not a short track. So back-to-back here with Martinsville and Richmond. Going to be a day race as well this weekend. A Sunday afternoon. We haven't had Richmond in the day since 2017, maybe. I think
been a little bit
because Logano won the spring race in that one, and then he got DQ'd and he didn't make the playoffs that season. Right. So that was during the day. I'm not sure if that was meant to be a rain delay, if it was scheduled for a day race or not, or if it was just postponed. But the last scheduled one I remember is 2016 Richmond in the spring with the Carl Edwards and Kyle Busch bump and run in the last couple of corners there. But I think since then it's just been day, but I could be wrong on that. It's been a while since we've had a day race for Richmond, and I'm really hoping that
last year was supposed to, right? Last year was supposed to be a day race, and then obviously got canceled because of COVID.
Maybe it could have been it. I think you're right on that. But usually the Richmond day races, we see the high line come in, and we don't see that during the nighttime. So I'm curious to see if the track will allow that to happen this time around, or if this package, I mean, it is 750 horsepower, so they could potentially get up a little bit higher. That's obviously the best part about it, when you can move around Richmond instead of it just being a one-line track. So I'm hopeful for that this weekend. But last week for Martinsville, we got our first 200-plus point scores, Kyle. That was we finally broke through.
Holy crap.
We finally broke through, 8th race of the season, and we got it done.
Well, I should have been more, but we don't.
Okay, it is.
Do we want to talk about that, or just?
Do you want to? Go ahead.
Okay, well, basically,
you seem to want to.
Not really. I feel like it's important to mention that I should have beat you, but I beat myself a lot, if we're being honest. But no, I could have had the 5 highest scoring drivers in my lineup, and then I made the bonehead decision of putting Keselowski in my lineup instead of Byron, and then immediately regretted it afterwards. So that's basically all. We'll see if basically the 2 times that I think I've had Keselowski in my lineup twice. First time I garaged him, it was when he had the contact with Truex at Atlanta, was it? I think, or Vegas or something. Anyways, I had him in my lineup at some point. He got damaged. He got garaged. put him in the lineup this time around because I had all 10 uses for him, so I might as well take the swing. And then he gets caught up in everything and has a crap finish. And so seems like I'm bad luck for Keselowski. So I don't know if I've got him in my lineup or anything, but we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, well, let's get right into it, Kyle. You start us off with your first pick for Richmond this weekend.
All right, well, let's make it nice and easy. I got Brad Keselowski in my lineup.
Way to really draw that one out there.
Really drew that one out there. But, I mean, the guy won the race last year. He's got back-to-back top fives here, dating back to the playoff race in 2019 at Richmond. And Penske's just looked really, really strong at the 750 horsepower package races dating back to last year as well. They've looked really strong this year. A track that's comparable-ish in terms of being a flat more than 0.5 mile, but not like your really long race is Phoenix, of course. And at Phoenix, Penske looked really strong there as well. Taking a decent amount from that race, I would expect Penske to be strong here again. At Richmond here, Keselowski has got, 5 straight top 10s. So I feel pretty solid about him finishing inside the top 10 here. Now, with me having him in my lineup means he's going to finish like 35th or something. But got the win last year at this race. I got the usages. There's no reason for me not to take the swing on Keselowski here.
Yeah, I'm taking Brad Keselowski in my lineup as well with this one. Over the last 5 races, he's got an average finish here of 5.8, 1 victory, as Kyle said, and then 2 top 5s in that span, 379 laps led. He is starting 20th through the poor finish at Martinsville, but with how long this is and how long the green flag runs usually go around Richmond.
I'm not super concerned about starting position here.
No, me neither. The fast cars usually get up to the front. Maybe he doesn't get as many stage points in that first stage as maybe what you would hope for, but we've got the usages really on him. So specifically you do.
I've still got 9.
I think I have 8 or 7 left on Keselowski or something like that. But,
I would guess 8, but
we'll see on that. I'd have to check. Let me just pull that up while we're talking about him. Mr. Keselowski down in 20th. I have 8 usages left with him. So it's good to use one here this weekend. So the 2 car is in my lineup here. My second pick for this weekend is his Penske teammate, Joey Logano. I'm not going with Ryan Blaney here.
We'll get to him. But
Joey Logano's in my lineup with an average finish over the last 5 races of 6.8, 3 top 5s in that span, 189 laps led. He starts 5th in this one. I have 9 usages left on Logano as well, so I'm going to try and let him loose here. After I garaged him last weekend at Martinsville, I've got no reason to not play the 22 car this weekend, especially considering how strong he's looked on the 750 horsepower package and how poor he's looked on the 551. So I've got no reason to not put him in here.
Yeah, a ton of emphasis on the 750 horsepower tracks for Team Penske, and that's exactly why I've got the 2 Penske cars there. Not going with Ryan Blaney, of course, which I'm sure we'll get to for Stay Away Froms, because his numbers here are atrocious. But for Keselowski and Logano, they've been really strong here. They've got fast cars. They've got the good results, and I've got usages for them. I've got 9 usages still on both these 2, so I feel very, very safe about using them here.
Yeah, for sure. You've got the next one here, number 3.
Yeah. For this next one, let's go with another guy that I got 9 usages left on, and it's somebody who I'm sure you'll be very fond of, and that is Kyle Busch. The results maybe haven't been there to the grand extent that they've been in the past, but this guy is still super, super, super consistent at this racetrack. Even last year, when they were having all their struggles, still finished 6th at Richmond. The year prior, finished 8th and 2nd. And then, of course, in 2018, he won both races at Richmond. I feel very, very confident about him having at least a good top 10, if not battling for the win here. Doesn't have Adam Stevens anymore, unfortunately, but I still feel pretty confident about Kyle Busch going into this one. Plus, you have the factor of him running the Truck Series race. I know you especially like when Kyle does the extra race on the weekend. So all the factors lead up, as well as him having the best average finish here over the last 6 races, all 6 in the top 10. Everything leads towards Kyle Busch having a good day.
All right, thanks for taking all my points on my guy Kyle. But yeah, that's the sum of it, really. I'm
Kyle sure Busch you can talk nicely about your guy as well.
I as you said, the biggest thing for me this weekend, him running that second series, and that just is absolutely beneficial. Kyle Busch gets the seat time. It is quote unquote practice, if you want to call it that, for him this weekend.
You talking about practice?
I don't know if he's going to necessarily win it this weekend or not. This was when we did our Truck Series season preview. I didn't have him winning this race in the Truck Series.
That's right.
But I will see on how I go with my winner pick later on.
Well,
but
you took Kyle to win 4 of the 5, right?
Yeah.
And he already lost one, so
I have to have him win everything
Yeah.
else. So
Yeah.
the pressure is on Mr. Busch, but even if he doesn't win the race this weekend for the Truck Series, I still think that translates to a decent amount of success for the Cup Series for him.
Yep.
He's starting 10th in this one.
Yeah, solid
he's
starting
got
position.
2 wins over the last 5 races here, 3 top 5s in that span, 431 laps led. Didn't quite have the greatest success here last season, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, it is what it is with Kyle Busch right now. I'll take what I can get.
You expect to win at Richmond.
I'm hopeful that he can break through this weekend, but I think just a solid top 10 here is based off of the numbers would be, anything but that for Kyle Busch this weekend would be absolutely disappointing. So I'll put him in my lineup for my 4th guy this weekend. I'm going with another Kyle. Kyle Larson is in my lineup for this one at Richmond.
Okay.
An average finish over the last 4 races here because he did miss this race last season, but 14.25. It's been kind of a hit or miss track for Kyle Larson in his career. Won a race back here in 2017 in his career year up to that point in time, and we're looking at exponentially better one here this season with Hendrick Motorsports. He's starting 6th. He's shown really great speed at these kinds of tracks. We saw him at Phoenix being probably the fastest car, but was kept on getting snake bitten by pit penalties, and he started at the rear. So hopefully he doesn't have to go through that whole schmozzle again this time. I like Kyle Larson's speed lately. I think this is a track where I could probably use a usage on him for. I've got, I think, 7 usages left on him, if I'm not mistaken, if I pull it up. 7. I think I can let one loose here, and I'm going to go with Kyle Larson here as my 4th guy.
That's an interesting one because, of course, I randomized my lineup in the Daytona 500. I beat you in that, of course, but Kyle Larson was part of it. And I got a good points haul out of it, don't get me wrong, but that means I've only got 6 usages to your 7 left on Kyle Larson. So I'm to be determined on Kyle Larson for this one. I got to wait on him. If I put him in, he'll be my last entry to the lineup, but we'll wait and see how things go there. My 4th entry, though, and somebody that I'm for sure going with here, is someone who has been the mantra of consistency so far this season. Hasn't won here since 2016. A few top 5 sprinkled in there recently, but I'm going with Denny Hamlin again in my lineup here. I got the usages to use. Haven't used him a ton so far this season, despite how good he's been. I still got 8 usages left for him this season, so I feel solid about using him here at a track where hasn't necessarily broken through for the win, but has been very consistent so far this year. And I don't see any reason why that won't be much of the same here at Richmond. He's got 4 top 5s in the last 6 races here. He's basically been top 5 or outside the top 10. So very much in the hunt for the win or completely out of it. Wasn't as great of a finish last year at this track, but the way that they're handling everything so far this season, I feel very confident about Hamlin coming into this weekend.
Yeah, that is a very, very good pick there, Mr. Cushman. I think you go again here with number 5.
I guess the next one. Yes.
Yeah, go for it.
Number 5. This is where things start to get a little bit more difficult. I don't know about yourself, but there's about, 2, 4, 5 names that I'm looking at here for these final 2 spots. And I got to start committing to something. So this next one, it's a bit painful to do because of the usage situation, but the guy's too damn good here, and that's Martin Truex Jr. I got to take the swing. The way that they've been performing so far this year, not only just in general, but Phoenix, a track that Truex hadn't won at so far in his career, flat oval, a little bit more than a half mile, goes out and wins it. Super, super good. Flat half mile. Last time out at Martinsville, goes out and wins the race. Martin Truex Jr., he's been very strong here at Richmond in recent years. I know I've only got 6 usages left on him. I've looked ahead. It's not great, but it's okay enough. He's finished 3rd, 1st, and 2nd over the last 4 races here. Martin Truex Jr., taking the swing on him. He's my 5th entry.
Oh man, that okay. Well, I'll tell you a guy who I have locked into my lineup, and that's Denny Hamlin. He was one that
Okay.
I did for sure have in there. He is my fifth guy. Starting second in this one, the epitome of consistency, 7 top fives for the first 8 races of this season. Unprecedented, really, that we've seen from the 11 car right now. I wanted to wait a little bit on telling that one because he is my first guy this weekend, but I wanted to see if you had him in there first before I made my gauge. And now that you've gone with the Truex one, that makes it extremely, extremely difficult for me here.
Well, you picking Larson made it difficult for me.
I think you literally made a case for Truex that I should put him in my lineup, but it's the usage situation for the 19 car because he's the guy that I predicted to go to the championship for this season. I expected a bounce back, and he's out there really proving it right now for me. And it is so difficult to put him in my lineup here, considering how many more tracks we have that I want to use him at. Because I think the thing with the 1.5 mile stuff, it's been kind of hit or miss for him this season. So it's difficult to say that he's that 2017 version of Martin Truex Jr., where he was the king of 1.5 miles. But
not the 78 anymore.
I know, that's the thing. But for my last pick here, I'll just walk you through my thought process here. Okay. Because I've got
Truex. How many names are you going through here? Because I've still got four names.
I've got 4. So, So my 2 big ones are going to be Martin Truex Jr. and Chase Elliott that I'm looking at right now.
Interesting. Okay.
Those are my 2. But my 2 safer ones, Christopher Bell and Austin Dillon. Both of those guys have done exceptionally well here over the past couple of races. Christopher Bell specifically in the Xfinity Series, excuse me, when he was with JGR, he dominated this place. He's got Adam Stevens as his crew chief. Chase Elliott has been pretty solid around here. I have 8 usages left on Elliott, so I'm really waiting to pull the trigger on him because he's been a slow starter, so I'm happy with where I'm at with his usages right now. And I don't want to overextend right now after having just one good run at Martinsville and then play him here at Richmond, where I think Richmond's not necessarily where I consider another Atlanta for him, but it's a little bit more of an unknown than what I would love for Chase Elliott to have right now. So I'll probably stick away from Chase right now.
Okay.
But so you have 5. We have 5 of the same, correct? Right now? Wait, no?
Our difference is I have Truex, you have Larson.
Okay. So, but if I took Truex, then you couldn't take Larson, essentially.
Well, that's an interesting choice that you'd be making, but I mean, do whatever you feel like, essentially.
Okay. Okay, I'm not gonna go with Truex. I'm gonna go with a bit of where is he? He's starting on pole. You know what? I'm gonna go with Truex. I'm gonna go with him.
Wow, that's a move. Okay.
I'm gonna go with him. If I don't get the points haul from the first couple of stages, I'm gonna garage him because his value is just way too much for me right now. But I'm gonna stick with a heavy hitter lineup here. I really, really wanted to go with Austin Dillon, but I just can't take the risk of him not scoring stage points and Keselowski not getting the stage points that I want. So I'm going to try and go with Truex. There's my final pick.
Well, that's an interesting tactic by you. I'm not going to lie, because it forces me to go with somebody else, which, hey, you know what? All's fair in love and war. Fair enough. But with this last pick, I really wanted to use Larson, but the usage situation is just a little too difficult to go that kind of heavy on him so early in the season, even though this is a really, really solid track for him. So for this last one, basically the combination that I'm looking for is somebody who I feel okay about the usage situation, somebody who has had good results here in the past and has the potential to kind of bust out big so that I can match you with kind of the super, super heavy hitter lineup for yourself. And I don't love doing it because I don't like using everybody from a certain organization, but I feel like it's going to be a very, very strong weekend for Joe Gibbs Racing. And so Christopher Bell is in my lineup here.
Good pick.
When I'm looking at it here, it was a solid finish last year for Levine Family Racing. finishing 15th in a race that was basically completely green flags except for the stage finishes is very solid business by them, especially when you look at the running order. The complete top 10 was playoff drivers. 11th in Tyler Reddick was the highest non-playoff driver. The second highest was Christopher Bell in the 95. So taking all that into account and looking at his results in Xfinity, of course, a couple of wins, dominant wins as well at Richmond in his career there, I'll take the swing on the full JGR lineup there for myself. I don't love doing it. In an ideal world, I use Austin Dillon because he's had some really strong results here. A conservative pick there. I thought about taking the swing on Harvick, but I just want to see them be solid enough before I start really pumping into those usages, because it could be very, very real, a situation where they have a slow start, figure out halfway through the season, and then they're just dominant for like the last handful of weeks of the season. And if that's the case, you want the usages there to use them. So, and some of the races later in the season also fit him a bit better. So stay away from Harvick. A bit difficult to go without Austin Dillon there, but when I'm looking at somebody who I'm not concerned about usages, has a good car, has had good finishes here in the past, and has that potential to hit big, Christopher Bell checks all those boxes, so I'll go with him here.
Yeah, that's a very good pick. I really, really like Bell this weekend. I think when I had him at Phoenix for my lineup there, and he had some glimpses of speed, but then he kind of teetered around that late top 10, early teens mark. So I'll play a little bit more conservative on Bell this weekend.
Starting position as well, so in a good position to get those stage points if they do roll off the truck well. So.
Yeah, those are good. Honorable mentions time. The one that you just mentioned there, Christopher Bell, Chase Elliott, I looked at as well, obviously. William Byron, just based off of how consistent he's been this season, I think the numbers may not suggest that, but with how well he's run at tracks where he struggled in the past this season, I think the 24 car could be a sneaky top 10 guy. May not get you the stage points, but maybe there at the finish. Kevin Harvick is another one, has really good numbers here. Just I'm waiting for the 4 card to prove it to me, for me to even think about putting a usage more on him, because I already have used 3 usages on Kevin Harvick this season.
Really?
And
let me check where I'm at with him, because I felt like I was in a good spot with him. Yeah, I've only used 2 usages, so I got 8 left on him. So a little bit better for myself there.
Yeah, I've used an extra one. I don't know where it was, but it was definitely probably not the right choice based off of what we've seen for the 4. Might have been. I used him there, but I don't know.
I remember you using him there. I felt like I went a different route, and it almost paid off because the Custer thing.
Almost.
Yeah.
And then
I can't remember if I used him there though.
And then Austin Dillon. That was the last one there for my honorable mentions. I think he's an extremely, extremely good value pick this weekend. If you're looking to use a guy that's outside the big 3 organizations, he's definitely the one.
I would give a little shout out to Tyler Reddick there as well. 11th place finish in his first ever race at Richmond in the Cup Series last year. RCR obviously looked really good with Austin Dillon there, so maybe it was like a trickle-down effect of the playoff race, because last year was a playoff race, so you have to remember that, because all the big teams are bringing their best as well, which isn't necessarily the case in the regular season race. We don't have that reference point from last season, but Tyler Reddick is a guy that interests me a little bit if you were going a more conservative route.
They've shown really, really consistent speed on these kinds of tracks with the 750 horsepower package. So I would not be surprised if either of those guys get a top 10 at the end of this thing, because they've been really, really good. And we look back to Martinsville, Reddick scores a top 10. Austin Dillon was one of the fastest cars on the track at points throughout that race as well. So encouraging speed from the RCR camp on these kinds of tracks. But those are my honorable mentions. Really short stay away from list this weekend. It's only 2 guys for me this weekend.
Okay.
Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
And Alex Bowman. I think I would just play a bit more conservative on him this weekend. He's had really poor luck so far this season outside the playoffs if it were to end right now. And I just need to see him get a consistent finish before I start using my Bowman usages, which I expect to use most of them, if not all of them, probably by the end of the regular season, just because he is that kind of consistent threat that gets you 30 to sometimes 40 points a week. So,
yeah.
But Blaney specifically, this is his worst track, I would say. Darlington and this is it
statistically it's his worst track.
He's terrible around here for some darn reason. His two teammates just absolutely are inside the top 10 in terms of average finish, and Blaney can barely get inside the top 20 when it comes to average finish. So I'm not expecting big things from Blaney this weekend and at Darlington in a couple weeks time, but other than that, Blaney's pretty much a threat basically anywhere else. So just conservative on the stay away from this weekend, and of course Blaney will probably end up in victory lane, and this is the year that he bumps that slump.
Okay, even the stay away from jinx cannot. No, I can't
overturn it. Right,
even the stay away from jinx.
It can't be that bad. No. That would be the ultimate. Like that would be the ultimate one that's ever happened. If it's stay away from and Blaney ends up in victory lane.
If it is, like, I'm legitimately not setting my fantasy lineup whatsoever until you make your picks. That would be the most impressive thing ever done on the show.
Get it clipped.
Yeah.
All right, that's the honorable mentions and stay away from. Let's get to the bonus picks for this one.
Yes.
Who leads this one off? Because we figured this out. Okay, you figured this one out. All right. Yeah. Top Chevrolet, who you got?
Top Chevrolet, I forget. Who did I go with? Sorry. Because I don't have any Chevys in my fantasy lineup. Normally, it's pretty obvious. You just look at your lineup, whoever Chevy you have, you put them in. I don't got any this week. But the top Chevy, I thought about going with Austin Dillon for this one because he has been the top Chevy a couple of times recently at Richmond. I looked back at those results. But Kyle Larson, he was good here with Chip Ganassi. He's at Hendrick. They showed speed at Phoenix. Fell away a little bit at the end of the race, but I still feel very strong about him being the best Chevy going into this race in terms of what they should do. Don't feel as great about the rest of the Hendrick camp coming into this race. Kind of similarly as I did at Phoenix, except Chase Elliott was the exception there. William Byron didn't have great results. Alex Bowman didn't have great results. So I think Kyle Larson is pretty clearly the top Chevy. I think the second option there would be like an Austin Dillon before maybe taking a shout on any of the other ones. But Larson is going to be my guy for Chevrolet here.
Yeah, same here. I have him in my lineup. I think he's going to be in contention for a top 5 probably at the end of this thing. And he just is super, super consistent this season so far. So I'd be kind of, I guess it would be Elliott that I'd look at if it's going to not be him, and Dillon. Those are my two. Okay. I don't know if I could see his teammates with Byron or Bowman getting up there ahead of him this weekend unless something happens. So, Kyle Larson, pretty self-explanatory. For top Ford finisher, I was looking at two guys here, as per usual, and it's Keselowski and Logano. And every time I don't pick Logano, he is the top Ford finisher. And every time I pick Keselowski, he's
Which is why I'm glad you're going first for this one.
So, you can make the decision basically on which one I don't go with here.
That's exactly what I'm doing. I'll just be straight up.
Okay. Well, you, sir, can have Joey Logano because I'm going to take Brad Keselowski for my top Ford finisher this weekend. I think after the poor run last weekend, the 2-car usually doesn't have poor back-to-back weekends, and he's been really, really good around here in his career. So I'll take him. I
like that. Because originally I had Joey Logano in my lineup as well. So it works out well for both of us because Brad was great here last year, of course, won the race. But back-to-back, maybe, I don't know as much. So I'll take the swing on Logano here for this one.
Yeah, he's going to be right because every time I don't pick Logano, he's the top Ford finisher.
That's assuming that I have good luck as well, which means that it's going to be like Harvick is the top Ford or something weird. But
Eric Almarola.
Hey, he's decent here. Don't sleep on Almarola, but maybe sleep on him a little bit. I don't know. Anyways,
top Toyota.
Toyota. You can take a swing on any of those JGR cars, to be honest.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm going with Truex. He's been the top Toyota a handful of times in recent years. I think all 3 of the most recent ones because he's finished second and then first before that. So that would make sense. Look at me using my brain there. But honestly, Kyle Busch would make a ton of sense. Denny Hamlin with his consistency would make a ton of sense. If you want to take the swing on Christopher Bell, go ahead and do it. Like you can make a case for any of the 4. I just feel like Truex is playing the odds the best.
I am not going to go with Martin Truex Jr.
Really?
Here for the top
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going with Denny Hamlin for this one. I don't usually use him for this top Toyota finisher because Truex either beats him, or I think one of his other teammates can usually beat him. But I'm going to go with Hamlin this weekend for the top Toyota. Home track, has just been right there knocking on the door. As closest he's ever come was this past weekend at Martinsville to winning a race, 20 laps away basically from it. And he's, I'll take a top 5 finish here from Hamlin and hope that gets me the top Toyota finisher for this one. Yeah, that's basically it for that. I don't want to match you on Truex on this one because I'm a little bit hesitant with Truex, just a tad, more so than Hamlin. I can't put Kyle Busch as my top Toyota because it's just terrible right now. But yeah, that does it for the manufacturers. Yes. Top manufacturer for this one, the specific one. Yeah. This is an interesting one because I really, really like the Toyotas this weekend. All 4 of them could probably go up there and win the race, really. If you look at their numbers and everything like that, the circumstances make sense for them to have a really strong weekend. But to cover my bases, just in case, I'm not going to go all in on Toyota. I'm going to take the Ford here this weekend just in case it's Keselowski or Logano that ends up in victory lane. Yeah, that's basically it there.
Yeah, the manufacturer one's an interesting one because it's usually playing the numbers game, right? You look at the numbers, there's a lot more Chevys and a lot more Fords than there are Toyotas. So normally it makes a lot more sense just to roll the dice on one of those 2 for manufacturer. Except here at Richmond, I see for sure 3 Toyotas that can go out and win the race, maybe even a 4th if you want to count Bell, but I think that's kind of more of a long shot pick. Mm-hmm. In terms of just the favorites, Busch, Truex, Hamlin for the Toyotas there. For Chevys, I don't really see the same kind of lineup there. And for Ford, I see the 2 Penske's. And I don't know if you know this, but 3 is greater than 2. So I'm rolling with Toyota for this one. I think it's the first time that I've picked Toyota as my winning manufacturer. I've been playing the numbers game for most of the season, playing the Fords or Chevys. But I'm rolling with Toyota for this one. I feel pretty solid about that JGR lineup.
The only reason I'm not going to put them is just in case they struggle in the daytime here, and because they have run so well in the night race. I think the Fords are better during the day at this track. So in terms of how they've won the races in the past. Yep. So I just wanted to make sure I get that. But you have a winning organization.
I talked poetically about him so far. I got all 4 in the lineup. Joe Gibbs Racing. Hey, you know what? If I'm going with the whole stable in the fantasy lineup, I got to take the swing on him, right? So JGR is the winning organization pick.
Yeah, same here for me.
Just in case was coming when you picked Ford.
Yeah. I can't bet against Gibbs here this weekend. Math makes sense. 4 is better than 2 because I'm not even going to count Blaney in the Penske stable this weekend.
No, neither did I.
So I think the math, you double them up and you hope for the best here. If you get it wrong, you get it wrong, but you just got to play the odds here and go with Gibbs for the winning organization. Truck Series winner pick before we get into the Cup Series one. We got to do that first.
I completely forgot about the Truck Series. I'm not going to lie. Great. So you go.
I gave you the field, Kyle, so you can take whatever you want because I'm taking Kyle Busch for this one, just in case he does win this one, and I don't have to backpedal on it. I have him winning 4 races in the Truck Series this season, and tying for the wins record for the series record for this year. And if that's going to happen, he's going to have to win straight on out for his start. So I'm going to take him.
Yeah, that's a pretty safe bet, I would go ahead and say. The Truck Series is interesting here at Richmond because first time they went there in 15 years was last year. So we don't have a big frame of reference for a lot of these drivers here. Grant Enfinger won the race last year with a dominant performance, 58 points, a strong day all day long. But for myself, looking at it here, where do I want to go for this one? You know what? I'll say a Toyota gets it done. I'll say Ben Rhodes goes out there and gets another win so far this season. He finished 3rd last year. He was the top finish, he was the 3rd of the 3 ThorSport trucks there, Enfinger, Crafton, and then Rhodes. He's been really strong to start the season. Has teetered off a little bit recently, but I'll say he goes back out and gets it done here.
Good pick. That's a solid foundation.
That's a 10 seconds prep pick right there. So.
I'll give you that. All right. You get first pick here for the Cup Series. We had this situation last week. You took Chase Elliott. Yeah,
No.
yeah. You went first.
Oh,
last
yeah.
week.
Sorry.
What are you talking about? Yeah,
no, I had my. I didn't fill out your pick, so we're good.
Last week you had Chase Elliott as your winner pick. Left me Truex was the biggest laugh that I ever had that I got him out of that all, even though I really wanted Chase Elliott for the pick. But you get first pick here. We'll see if I can do it again this weekend.
I feel like I'm not taking your guy this weekend because you haven't seemed as high on him going into this one.
Okay, you're going to take him. Okay.
I'm going with Truex.
Okay.
I'm going with Truex here.
I thought you would.
It's a little bit bold to go with back-to-back winner, but as I said earlier, one at Phoenix, one at Martinsville, 2 flat ovals. Obviously, Martinsville is very different. Phoenix, less so. It's a daytime race versus the nighttime, which he's dominated in. But I still feel very, very good about him just because of that Phoenix performance where he hasn't been as good so far in his Cup Series career. And he won that race and beat 2 really, really strong Penske cars in the process as well. I could very easily see him doing the same. I could easily see him going out and getting the full 60 this weekend, starting from pole. I feel pretty solid about JGR as a whole. I think Denny Hamlin's going to be right behind him. Kyle Busch is going to be in the conversation as well. But I think Truex is quickly becoming that race winner so far this season. He's my pick here at Richmond.
That's not obviously the guy that I wanted. So
I felt like you're going a different route. So
I'm happy
I didn't feel
that you,
as bad.
I feel happy that you took this guy because I'm pretty adamant that I think this guy can win it this weekend, and it is his teammate Denny Hamlin. I've got him as my race winner pick. Yeah. I think he finally breaks through. The thing that impressed me the most was that he hadn't won a while in Martinsville. He didn't win it, but he really ran exceptionally well. And he hasn't won at Richmond in quite some time as well. And I think this is the weekend that he breaks through. I like him during the day here as well. The 11 car has been super consistent. I haven't taken him for a race winner pick, I don't think, so far this season. Maybe I took him in the 500. I don't know. But nonetheless, Denny Hamlin has been.
I can't remember who you took for the 500. I'll be honest.
I can check. But Denny Hamlin's just been on quite the roll, to say the least. Who did I take here?
I remember I took Blaney, but I can't remember who you went with.
I went with Joey Logano. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive for you to make that pick. But.
Yeah, I was close. I was 2 corners away. That's right. Yeah, I don't know why I forgot that. I was so close. But nonetheless, it was a disappointing end result for the 500. I'm hopeful that I can get Denny Hamlin here this weekend in victory lane. That would be 8 different winners through the first 9 races of the season as well. So spreading the wealth for sure. And I think Hamlin's got a really, really good shot here to finally break through this season. So that does it for the bonus picks and our fantasy lineups. Kyle, would you like to take us through your lineup and your bonus picks one more time?
Yes. So we've got very similar lineups this time out, which isn't too surprising because Richmond is a fairly predictable track in terms of who's going to be at the front. Mm-hmm. So I've got Brad Keselowski, Joey Logano from Penske, and then all 4 JGR cars, Kyle Busch, Denny Hamlin, Martin Truex Jr., and Christopher Bell. In terms of my bonus picks here, Kyle Larson top Chevy, Joey Logano top Ford, Martin Truex Jr. top Toyota, rolling with Toyota and Joe Gibbs for manufacturer and organization. Sticking with Toyota for the Truck Series as well, I'll say Ben Rhodes goes and gets it done because I don't get that Kyle Busch pick. And the winner for the Cup Series, going back-to-back 3-time winner for the season, Martin Truex Jr.
Toyota heavy lineup from you there, Mr. Cushman, all across the board. But for myself, I've got 3 of the JGR cars with Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, and Martin Truex Jr., 2 Penske's in Keselowski and Logano, and then 1 Hendrick with Kyle Larson. For my bonus picks, we've got the top Chevrolet being Kyle Larson, top Ford, Brad Keselowski, top Toyota, Denny Hamlin. Winning manufacturer is Ford. Winning organization, Joe Gibbs Racing. The Truck Series winner pick, I'm going with my guy, Kyle Rowdy Busch. And then we've got the Cup Series winner pick, Denny Hamlin. So very Toyota heavy on my end as well. But that's to be expected, obviously.
Yes.
Yeah, that'll do it for the NASCAR fantasy preview for Richmond this upcoming weekend. Any final thoughts on that?
Oh, I got one more thing because I tried it out for the first time last week and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I'll mix in my DraftKings lineup at the end of these as well. It's a little bit of a different fantasy format. You can look it up as well. It's a lot more based on not just your finishing position, but laps led, fastest laps, difference from starting position, all those kind of things. So there's a lot more kind of math that goes into it in terms of how your results are formulated. You also have a salary cap, all that kind of stuff. Highly recommend looking into it if you're interested in any kind of sports gambling or anything. It's a ton of fun. So my lineup for this weekend, taking into account some starting positions, how much they cost, everything like that. Most expensive entry, the max 12,000, Brad Keselowski, because he's starting 20th. So you can expect him to be a really, really strong contender there in terms of getting through and getting up in the field quickly and getting those big differential. He's not a risky pick by any means. Second at 10,000, I am rolling with Kyle Busch there. He's not as expensive as some of the other ones, a couple thousand less actually. So you can get him as a potential race winner without having to use another super, super high-end entry there. Next is an interesting one. I'm actually rolling with Eric Almarola here for 8,200. Starting 22nd, he looked really, really good coming through the field at Phoenix, and then had the late penalty going into the third stage. Recovered somewhat, but could have been a top 10 car, honestly, if he had not had that penalty. He got up there by the end of the race, just couldn't get back through. I like him starting 22nd there in terms of getting some positive value. And then the fourth guy, Austin Dillon, 7,500.
That's a really good
starting
value
11th.
pick.
The big thing there is he needs to finish top 10 to get those differential points, which is big there. So getting him for 7,500, I feel solid about him getting that top 10 finish though. So we'll see about that going into this race. And then the two kind of cheaper options, starting further back in the field, which I feel like could actually get some solid top 25, maybe even top 20 finishes here. Daniel Suarez starting 27th for 6,600. I like that because at Stewart Haas in the past, he's actually got top 10s here in the past. So RCR affiliated. They've been strong here in the past. Low starting position. I feel really good about Suarez here. Mm-hmm. Then finally, for 5,600, I was surprised how cheap he was because he's starting 25th as well. Ryan Preece. He's been pretty solid here at Richmond. Of course, he's a short track guy, not a short track here, or it's a short track, but not the same kind of that we think of for the modified guys going through like the half mile and less. For 5,600, starting 25th, I feel like he's a top 20 contender. Right. So I feel pretty solid about that. Like 5,600 is where we're starting to get into like Corey LaJoie, Rick Ware territory. So that's the DraftKings lineup. I've also got a Truck Series one, but we don't need to go through that because that's a little bit too niche. So that's how we're rolling with for the Cup Series here. $4 entry. We'll see how things go. We'll give you the report whether I'm up or not after this weekend. Cup Series, I didn't get any of my money back, but I did get $50 from the Masters, so I'll take that.
You win some, you lose some. Essentially, you gotta take them.
I was looking really solid until the chaos happened and like the big one happened. But
yeah, that was you don't usually see that at Martinsville, the big one, but we did last weekend. So, any final thoughts going into this weekend, Kyle? Before we wrap up this episode with NASCAR.
Yeah, should be an interesting one. We saw a few tempers flare last time out, and it's another short track in terms of the name. I don't know if I consider a short track because to me that's half mile or less, but regardless, it's a short track by NASCAR standards, and we'll see how things go.
Average track by our rankings as well. This is a high stakes here for Richmond.
That's true. A big make or break race for Richmond here, but day race we'll see how different things go from the night race last year. Green flag throughout the entire one last time, so we'll see if more of that's the same here. I do like the long green flag run to a certain extent. I like seeing how strategy goes, stuff like that. But unless you get there is a limit, and unless you get some battles in there, it's a little bit lackluster. But if the TV guys actually show battles for like 15th and stuff, then it would be a lot more entertaining. But I digress. Still looking forward to this weekend Truck Series and Cup Series as well.
Yeah, no Xfinity Series action this weekend, so they'll be back for Talladega, but it's just the Trucks and the Cup Series. Trucks on Saturday afternoon as well as the Cup on Saturday afternoon, so a doubleheader weekend. We'll see what happens in both races during the day as well, so I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully this track can deliver for the first time in a couple of years here. If this daytime shift does elevate the racing here, that's probably the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to and watching this weekend. It's just going to be overall fun and exciting to get back to short track racing once again. And this is going to be the last short track for quite some time, I think, until the playoffs.
Yeah.
So we got to soak it up, enjoy it
we
while we
only
can.
got 3 on the schedule, so
Yeah, it is what it is. And we got 1 Bristol date taken away. So, yeah, that's another great one. But make sure to follow us on Instagram at The Green Flag Pod, as well as Twitter at The Green Flag Pod. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just hit 50 subscribers, so thank you very much for everybody who's subscribed so far. All the links to our social channels will be in the description of the YouTube video. But for this episode, I've been Lukas Wacker. He's been Kyle Cushman, signing off for now. We will talk to you in the next one to get you set up for the Formula One weekend here in Imola. Enjoy the racing, everybody.